Hello everyone and welcome back to my Eruption of Shame. It's only been a couple of days since our last episode of this, but that's okay. When there's new bundles, when there's new stuff coming out, that's when we have a quick look. And in this case, it probably will be a very quick look because, based on first impressions, I'm going to have a hard time with this one. The first game is Wasteland 3, which is not bad. In fact, it's quite a good headliner if you don't own it. I backed it on Fig, so I already have it, which means that I don't really need it now. Yay. I'll probably give it to a student at some point or find a friend who needs it, but it's an okay game. I think I preferred Wasteland 2. And if you don't own this game, then hey, that's a decent pickup, especially when you consider that it's like a fair chunk of change. So fair enough. Next one is Greedfall, another game which I apparently own, but I don't think it was because of a bundle, so I think I did just buy it at some point. I don't remember. Yeah, it's another role-playing game. It's the secondary spotlight for today. So the other one is spotlighted, and it's been advertised as such, and so is this one, which makes sense. They're both very expensive games, and they're both fairly good, well-known, well-popular games. Fair enough. But I also own that one, so less of an issue. Now, this one may look familiar to you, and that's why we're not probably going to watch a lot of any trailers today. This one is First Class Trouble. It is a game which is out currently in the Jingle Jam. That being said, this is not the first time that they've given out a multiplayer game in the Jingle Jam that has already been given out in Humble, or that a Humble has given out something that's been in the Jingle Jam that's multiplayer. It seems like they don't mind giving out more copies of a multiplayer game because the idea is they want to encourage you to play with your friends, and not every friend buys Humble, not every friend buys the Jingle Jam. This is basically just Among Us in space with slightly better graphics. I have heard that most people say the server is kind of dead and it's not nearly as good as Among Us, which is kind of a shame. Based on the trailer, it looked pretty good, but meh. Backbone. Now this one does actually look pretty good for me. To me, it's one I don't actually have, which is nice. Beautiful art style. Kind of a interesting concept of a raccoon in a beautiful city of, well, yeah. So it looks like it's going to be some sort of detective game, and quite frankly, I'm a-okay with that. Is this enough to save the bundle for me? Probably, but only because I don't want to lose my 20%. If this was before they got rid of that 20% thing, I would have been pausing for like straight away. But I can't risk losing 20% over this because it's still the cheapest way to get games for the most part. But if you guys think at home being like, I've got that games too, and thinking about whether you want to skip, it's getting close to that, isn't it? Tome! Another game I own, though I don't think due to a bundle. It just looks like a fairly basic indie adventure game. Interesting aesthetic, nothing really crazy to it. Uh, I mean, realistically, it's not really one I'm that excited about in general, but that's okay. There's always something unique and interesting in Humble, and that's okay. Now, this one is very familiar for me because I've played it before on Epic. It is a free game that you would have received on Epic, where the water tastes like wine. That being said, obviously, people often prefer it to be on Steam rather than Epic, and when I did play this, I had a fairly okay time. I have been meaning to play more of it, so now I've got on Steam. It might happen. So, yeah, not on stream. Obviously, it wasn't really the best streaming game. Basically, it's a game where you explore, you listen to people's stories, and you're slowly going through, well, basically a fantasy America. I mean, very fantasy because you are literally a skeleton, but fair enough. Now, Blade Assault. This is another one I do not have, but looking at the aesthetic, it looks pretty nice. Action, indie, it's one of those sort of games. It doesn't look like its focus is primarily on like hard platforming or anything. It looks like its focus is more on, well, almost like bullet helly sort of gameplay. Sort of like an old metal shell. Golden shell. No, yeah. Anyway, it's that old like arcadey platformer sort of dealio, but it's got a beautiful aesthetic, and this is another game which definitely does save it for me a little bit because it's good. Then finally, we've got Super Magbot. Now, this game is already going for like $8 on Steam right now. It's just another action indie game. It's clearly one of those more difficult puzzlers, or platformers. Sorry. Eh, eh. I like these based on how good the storyline is, and this one does appear to have a storyline. But whether it will be enough to keep me engaged, I don't know. There are also no additional games this month besides the ones they added over the last 3 months. So quite frankly, I'm not sure why, but I don't find this particular bundle in any way engaging to me. Granted, it probably is because I'm only getting 3 new Steam games out of it, and one of them is already what I have on Epic. And I'm sure I'll find homes for Wasteland and Greedfall, no problems. But it is kind of anticlimactic when half the bundle is something you don't need, and also you've got a literal repeat there of something that's out right now in the Jingle Jam. I guess Humble probably doesn't want to compete with the Jingle Jam. Would be my guess, because, well, why would you, quite frankly? But I suppose we'll find out, huh? Alright, so the next set of games is on Amazon, which, shouldn't surprise you at this point. We're looking at Quake, which is a classic. Spinch, Desert Child, Brothers Tale of Two Sons, Banners of Ruins, something called Rose the Riddle. I don't look at those games, they're weird. The Amazing American Circus, and Doors. Now, as usual for the last few months, it seems like Amazon has slightly came on top. However, in comparison to weeks that gave us stuff like, Fallout New Vegas, and, literally had Star Wars Squadrons, we have had a few pretty high quality, high fidelity games given out in Amazon before. This one seems to be middling to low in terms of the offerings, at least what I can see, but we'll see what you see. First up, we have Quake. Which is an old school, like very old school, first-person shooter. One of the originals, alongside Dune and, things like Rise of the Triad and Hexen and, etc., etc. It's pretty much a classic, so I don't see this as a bad thing. Most people who've already got this will probably, most people have already played this if they're older than, a certain age. But if you're young, looking for a little bit of a blast from the past, which you never experienced, then Quake is probably a pretty good pickup, considering it is a classic and it is still pretty good to this very day. Next one is Spinch. So not entirely sure what this one is, to be honest. The pictures really don't do it justice, do they? I think we'll have to watch the trailer for this one. I went to GOG this time just because, so I don't think I have it set up as a better way to watch a video, but let's just have a look at a little bit of this Spinch trailer. It looks odd. Oh, it's an Akipara game. Oh, I do like the aesthetic, kind of, when it's shown like that. It's almost like Adventure Time aesthetic. Aww. This still doesn't help me with the game, though. Huh. Crazy. Interesting though. Um, so it's a precision platformer with a Adventure Time aesthetic crossed with an acid trip, I suppose. Fair enough. Yeah. Then we got the Desert Child, which okay. Once again, it's a weird. See, this is why I do like the Amazon pack often. Because often they choose things which are weird that I've never heard of before, and they're just there because they can be. So, okay. It could be going for a road rash, almost road rash style racing. Yeah, it looks it is. Obviously, different perspective. Road rash was straight on, but yeah, it looks like it's doing a racing game. So this must be like the middle, the waiting ground or a scene in the middle, and then you got your actual racing. You can pick up cash. I'm guessing that's why this is actually shops you can go into and get upgrades. Yeah, that looks actually fairly competent to say the least. I'll do that. That sounds fun. Now, Brothers Tale of Two Sons. Once again, this is another game which reminds me of. This is another game which reminds me of TB because he loved Brothers. Essentially, it is a game where you both play. Well, basically, you're playing both the sons with one controller. So with one thumbstick, you control one son. With the other, you control the other. It's a really not inspiration, like a really emotional journey. There's no talking in the game, but it still has a way of extolling its storylines quite well. I'm not going to show you the trailer or anything for this one. It's kind of one you sort of just want to experience. It's a good one though to receive, I think. So yeah, I'd say it's pretty good. Then you got Banners of Ruin, which is, of course, when you see it here, a card game. Yay! I actually quite like card games, so once again, this isn't a horrible pickup. Um, yeah, it is exactly what you think it is. It's another one of those sort of card games, sort of deck building sort of things. By looks of it, it's one I haven't played yet. It's one I'm looking forward to playing. Yeah, I actually quite like the card game as battle mechanic. I think it's quite cool. So yeah, that's a good pickup as well. And finally, the Amazing Circus. Now I got this, and you may have too, during it was a board games bundle a while back. That being said, it's just more cards. Because board games. It's got a really interesting aesthetic. I don't know very much about it. I think it's probably a decent pickup once again, if you don't already own it like I do. But yeah, so I think once again the Prime wins, right? Like Prime just wins. It's got a much better selection of games today, and that's pretty much it. No, actually, there is still more. Sorry, I literally forgot there was one more game called Doors. But it's yeah, it's a puzzle game where you look through 3D dioramas. I can see why I didn't really think about it too much, but it's still another game. There's also a few other things I'd like to spotlight with you. First of all, the fact that there are two VR packs currently for sale on Humble. I think I already did this before, but the VR Black Friday VR Voyages pack. I have not bought this one because I already owned like half the titles in the game in the box. I might still buy it just because A, it's good to have backups, and B, some of these games look quite interesting, but I don't know. It's not really my idea of a good time, really. Now, what I did do was I bought this one, which looked a lot better. A little bit smaller, but that often means that it's slightly higher value games. So this one's 400. Okay, no, just smaller bundle. But this is a slightly higher value proposition in my mind. There are a lot of newer games, ones I don't already have, which is fantastic. After the Fall, Cosmonius High, which is made by the Job Simulator guys, Vox Machini. Obviously, Arizona Sunshine is the oldest game in this bundle, but if you don't have it, it's really good. If you do have it, you can give it to a friend. Doom VFR, Cave Digger 2, which I love Cave Digger 1, and Beanstalker. Now, apart from that, we've also got Fanatical, in that they have offered another set of bundles, the Play Your Own Way on the Go bundle. Now, I've selected a few games already in this bundle. That's just because they're the games I don't already own. I already own a lot of these other ones. But it's a decent enough bundle. Red Out's fantastic. Some people really like the Kingdom Rush games. Not so much for me. I've played Liberated on the channel before. It's pretty good. Shadow Tactics is quite good. Yeah, it's not a fantastic bundle. It's also not a terrible one. I'm probably going to buy these games here. And apart from that, we've got the Build Your Own Bento bundle, which contains a boatload of Japanese games. I'm going to look through it myself and see if there's anything I want here. But often these Japanese games are stupidly expensive. So this is often the best time to get them. As you can see, 3 for 9, 10 for 24. It's probably the single most reasonable price you'll get a lot of these Japanese games for, because for some reason they always release at $40 or $80 price points. So it's worth having a look. Even just getting the 3 might be worth it. But by far, once again, the best bundle currently out in December is a Jingle Jam. So we had a whole video on Jingle Jam on Saturday. Make sure you go back and look at that. And then, yeah, that will probably help. Now, this is my last week at work, which means I will be heading home for Christmas. Now, I don't know what that means in terms of my upload schedule, because quite frankly, when I'm at home with people, I don't want to be recording. Now, there will be an Eruption of Shame in January, which I'll obviously be recording at home. Unless I come home then, I don't know. But for next few weeks, I have recorded a bunch of different things. I've got a bunch of different things for us to have on there. So yeah, basically over the next few weeks, while I'm on my break, I will still be recording, and I'll probably still be trying to stream. But the video schedule has slightly changed. Instead of having the 3 or so Mountain of Shames every week, we've obviously had Stardew for a time. Stellaris is obviously still ongoing. We have usually a stream on Saturday with, at the moment, Spaceborne. I haven't played too much of it, but still Spaceborne in theory. And Re-Legend. Those 2 streams will be coming to a pause because obviously I won't be streaming when I'm at home. However, we have a few different titles coming out. Obviously, Satisfactory, which started a couple of weeks ago, is going to continue. There's a fair number of Satisfactory episodes. It'll be 2 a week. We have Harvestella, which will start coming out, which also will be, for the most part, 2 a week. We have Crossfire Freelancer coming out, and we'll still have a couple of Mountain of Shames, though I admit there'll probably be less and less of those for a little bit, just while I'm at home. Because I don't really want to find a really great Mountain of Shame game and then have to wait months to find out if you want me to play more of it. So yeah, that's it, essentially. That's the bundles, and that's the news. I must say, in general, not too pleased with this month. I'll still claim it because I'm always looking for keys to give away to people in class, etc. And I'm always looking for an excuse. But not that useful for me personally. I hope you like it more. In fact, if you tell me if you like it, just tell me in comments. Do you prefer Amazon or Prime? Did you buy the Jingle Jam? And what are you going to do about those humble or fanatical bundles? Obviously, the humble bundles aren't worth very much at the moment unless you're a VR gamer. But still, thank you for joining me. This has been my Eruption of Shame for the December 2022. And I'll see you back next year in this series with hopefully a much better bundle when they're not competing with the Jingle Jam. Thank you all, and goodbye.